We got about a week and a half out until we get to the last pay-per-view of the year. UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. This is their second time going around. One more fight after this before we enter the Paramount era. I'm very excited for this card. And before we get into this, I want to make sure you guys go like, subscribe, leave some comments, tell me what you think. Comment as you're going through the videos and I'm giving my picks. If you like the beat, go ahead and DM me, email me for the beats that you hear, and also click the link to the juice reels if you want all of my picks, plays that I'm doing every week. Now let's get into this. All right, coming into the first fight of the card in the featherweight division, we got Naimov versus Santos. Now, this is actually a really good matchup. Santos is going to be the younger fighter here, looking for a little bit more to prove. Naimov coming in at that plus 205 dog. 31 years old, 13-3 pro record, 5-1 in the UFC. Training over there at Elevation Fight Team. He has one lone loss to Felipe Lima via rear naked choke. That is his only finish. He is coming off a win versus Con Ofley. And one win I really like from him is versus Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood's shown to be really good, display his skills. He just got a win over Jose Miguel Delgado. So that win looks a lot better in my eyes. But overall, he's just an all-around fighter. I wouldn't say he's crazy elite in any area, but he's really good in all areas. He has a solid chin. He does get submission and KO wins. Taekwondo. You know, he'll hit you with spinning kicks, pretty flashy style strikes here. I feel like he gets better as the fight goes. A lot of his fights, he kind of starts slow. Looks like he's losing, usually loses the first round, and then just over time starts kind of building momentum and getting the wins. I do like his scrambles as well when he gets to the ground. He's not really getting controlled a whole lot. He's scrambling around, getting out of sub looks from the other opponent. But yeah, so far his cardio is looking pretty good. On the other side, he's taking on Santos, coming in at that 255 favorite. He's 25 years old, 17-1 pro record. He's 3-0 in the UFC right now. He had some fights in the LFA. He's training over there at Extreme Couture. He's a composed striker. You know, it says he has more volume, but he seems to not really just swing to swing. He's looking to get shots. You know, his shots mean something when he's throwing them. He has a mean hook. That's one thing I've noticed. You know, he has power in that hook, and it looks pretty scary. He got a split decision win over Francis Marshall. Me personally, I think he lost that. That makes things a little bit trickier here. You know, this is a really hard fight for me to pick here. Overall, though, clean, powerful striking from Santos. This is a really tough one. I think I'm gonna go Santos here. I think I'm gonna go with the younger guy with the momentum. I think he's just gonna get the more volume out, the more significant volume out. I think he's going to be able to affect Naimov, at least make it look like it's hurting him more. But overall, this is a very close matchup. The way the line's moving, I would say the value's in the dog. I don't like how wide it is. I think, you know, maybe Santos coming in at a minus 125, 130 favorite. You know, Naimov at the, you know, plus like 115 dog or something makes a little bit more sense to me. But yeah, definitely the value's in the dog here, but the pick will be Santos. All right, let's move on. All right, getting into the middleweight division, we got Mansour Abdul-Malik versus Antonio Trocoli. Mansour's looking pretty good so far, 28 years old, 8-0-1 pro record. He's 2-0-1 in the UFC. All KO wins except for that one sub. He did get a big KO win in the Dana White's Contender Series. He had that draw with Cody Brundage, and there is a lot of controversy behind that. Clash of heads, got him down, was able to kind of get sort of a finish where the fight was called. Then they reviewed things. Brundage's team went to the board. They ended up just putting it as a no contest. So kind of tricky situation, but it was a competitive fight. Just throwing, you know, to throw that out there. He's powerful striker. good power in his hands, and to my understanding, he is a very respected wrestler as well. Mean ground and pound. The one thing I do see from him is he is hittable. He's very hittable. Doesn't really have a high guard. Lets the guard down. And this matchup, I don't really see that being a problem. But in the future, you know, in the middleweight division, being hittable is not something you want to be. You definitely want to try to have good head movement, something like that, you know, and not take a lot of small jabs or things like that. On the other hand, we got Antoni Trocoli, 34 years old, 12-5 pro record. He is now 0-2 in the UFC. I know one of those losses was to Shara Bullet. It was looking decent at the beginning, and then just the striking started to take over. And then I know Tresean Gore really did him dirty. Put him bad. From what I see, Trocoli's a decent striker. Cardio doesn't look good at all as the fight goes on, and him fighting a wrestler right now, usually wrestlers have pretty decent cardio. Yeah, this is, you know, I'm not gonna say I'm in agreement, but I'm not in disagreement with these lines. You know, saying anyone's a 1200 favorite for me is it pushing it, but you know, I'm not the expert here when it comes to the odds making. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I'm going to go Mansour Abdul-Malik by KO. Faster, more athletic, stronger, more powerful. I think this is a lot from the UFC here, just getting him some momentum here. But yeah, pretty straightforward with the pick. Mansour Abdul-Malik by KO. Let's move on. All right, now we're in the light heavyweight division. We got Iwo Baraniewski versus Ibo Aslan. Now this is a pretty solid matchup. Definitely someone's going to sleep in this one. Iwo Baraniewski just coming into the UFC, 27 years old, 6-0 pro record. This is the debut. He had a KO in Dana White's Contender Series. Made pretty easy work of it. He has 4 KO wins, 2 subs. You know, from what I've seen from him, not a lot of tape, too steady, but you know, powerful hooks, aggressive pressure, is getting fights to the fence, getting in, you know, clinch strikes. Looks like a pretty athletic pressure unit here. Coming in versus Ibo Aslan. 29 years old, 14-3 pro record. He's 2-2 in the UFC. He came in with a win, KO win as well on Dana White's Contender Series, and he's also a powerful striker as well. The one thing, the difference between these fighters that I'm looking at, Aslan is not as technical as Baraniewski. In this matchup, I see that kind of being the difference. I'm gonna go Baraniewski by KO. The pressure, I think, should be an issue. I think him throwing that pressure on, him not having the technicality, it's gonna really separate them. And I think Baraniewski's just a slightly better grappler, and I think he's gonna be able to get this fight either to the ground or against the fence, and look to get good clinch strikes on him and put him out on a separation, catch him and drop him. Another, you know, pretty straightforward, pretty confident in this one. Baraniewski by KO. Now let's move on. All right, now we're in the lightweight division with Edson Barboza versus Jalen Turner now. Yeah, this is another good one. You know, this card is stacked to the brim. Edson Barboza coming in at a plus 225 dog. You know, I like that. I like that line. I don't agree with it, but I like where they have him at. I think that there's some value there. Barbosa's on the older side though, coming in at 39 years old, 24-13 pro record. He's 18-13 in the UFC, but he's a dangerous striker. He's a deep arsenal. You know, front kicks, spinning fists, uppercuts. You know, he's pretty diverse when it comes to the striking realm. Long time XP, you know, good experience in the UFC. So, you know, that can play a role in a fight like this. He is on the decline, I would say, physically for sure. The IQ is obviously there, but all of his losses are to very good competition. He's not just losing to some bums, to some, you know, newcomer guys who are barely making a name. He's losing to legit people in the UFC. One thing I noticed though, he has pretty good BJJ, but he's not getting finishes, and that makes me, you know, that takes away from the high level, almost what I want to call it. But I'm gonna say he has good BJJ just because of the no finishes. We got Jalen Turner coming in on the other side at that minus 275 dog. He is 30 years old, 14-9 pro record. He is 7-6 in the UFC. Training over there at Charleston Gracie, Riverside. Powerful strikes, powerful straights. That's where I notice he's getting a lot of his best strikes off is those straights, that 1-2 down the middle. I do notice grappling holes though. If a good grappler is on him, which I don't know how much Edson Barboza is going to be employing the grappling. Yeah, so I don't know how if he's going to really look to get this fight to the ground. You know, his takedowns, I don't really see a lot of impressive ones, so we'll see how that plays out. As far as the pick, you know, this is a tough one. I think there is value in the dog, but pick's going to have to be Jalen Turner on this one. I'm going to go Jalen Turner by decision. I think he's going to be able to put him out, but he is the better striker right now in time. This fight, you know, you take this age of Jalen Turner, you put him, you know, let's just say 5 years ago, Edson Barboza, I would definitely have a confident pick in Barboza, but this day and age, I just don't think he's a good enough grappler right now to be able to control Jalen Turner and turn this into a submission or just a control fest. So we're going to go Jalen Turner by decision. Let's move on to the middleweight division. All right, now we're in the middleweight division with Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. Now, this is a very exciting matchup. I think this will be a good one for the fans, regardless if it's decision or not. Marvin Vettori coming at that -105. He's the dog right now. 32 years old, 19-8 pro record, 9-7 UFC record. He's training over there, American Top Team. Lost to respectful names, though. He has not lost to any bums. He did challenge for the title at one point versus Israel Adesanya. He made it somewhat competitive, just got outstruck. You know, that's where he does keep the feet, or he keeps it on the feet most of the time, and chose to do that with Israel Adesanya. And at that time, that was Adesanya's time. But he's all around fighter, very sound in all type of ways. I will say his biggest strength is his boxing. He's elite in the boxing. He has a great chin. He has never been finished in the octagon, submitted or knocked out. So, you know, looks really good. He has solid wins over good competition, you know, like Paulo Costa, Holland, Jack Hermanson, you know. So Bruno Ferreira, we'll see if, you know, he's on that level. Bruno Ferreira is 33 years old, 14-2 pro record. He's 5-2 in the UFC, training over there, Brazilian TKO. He's an explosive guy. That's one thing I noticed, a very explosive striker. He's best when he's moving forward, though. If he's getting backed up, he doesn't look too good. There was only one time where he was getting backed up, threw a Hail Mary shot on Greg Rodriguez and put him out. Other than that, I don't really have faith that that's something he could replicate. He has solid BJJ, though. I know he got a submission win over Jackson McVeigh. It was his debut, so, you know, we'll see how that looks after a few more fights from him. That mean ducking overhand right, yes, I see him getting Vettori on it, but Vettori's proven to have a chin, and I don't think he's going to go down. I think Marvin Vettori's going to win this by decision. I think he's just too durable to get caught, and he's just the better striker when it comes to these exchanges. I see him just showing that experience in the octagon and making this a striking match, avoiding the ground. Yeah, I think he's just going to get the slightly more volume out. I think he's just going to get the striking out more. As you can see, he's slightly above with that 4.68. Bruno Ferreira at 3.41. Yeah, this is going to be a good one, though, especially going to decision, being able to see Ferreira make it far like that. You know, I know he's usually getting some good finishes. Pick will be Marvin Vettori by decision. All right, let's move on. Now we're getting into the lightweight division with Nazim Sadykhov versus Fares Ziam. Now, this, I think this should be like pick'em odds. I think this should be almost even. This is a very, very tough matchup to predict here. But yeah, let's get into the breakdown so I can give the prediction. Got Nazim Sadykhov. He's coming in at that +115 dog right now. He's 31 years old, 11-1 pro record. He's 4-0 in the UFC, training over there at Serra-Longo fight team. His first pro fight he lost before the UFC, and since then it's been going up for him. Undefeated since. He's a clean boxer. I really like his boxing. Slick kicks, you know, leg kicks, body kicks. He kind of sneaks him in. I like how he finishes combinations with him too. It's one thing I noticed. It's always a good thing to get your hands loose, get a leg kick in there, keep your opponent off guard, you know. He has some KO power. He does have some submissions. I know he subs Terrence McKinney, who is a really good wrestler, so I think that looks pretty good. He's just an all-around good fighter. On the other hand, we got Fares Ziam, the Frenchman.
28 years old, 17-4 pro record. He is 7-2 in the UFC, training over there at Kill Cliff Fight Club. His last loss was versus Terrence McKinney via sub, but if you watch that fight, there was just like an exchange that happened. Faraz ended up on the ground, McKinney ended up getting top position and just finished the job. You know, I don't care who you are, you got Terrence McKinney on you. He's a wrestler, he got you on your back. Now that's his duty to finish the job here. They have Ziam at the minus 135 favorite. Again, I'm kind of in disagreement. I think this line, even though it's already close, I think it should be even closer. I think they should just be at dead even pick 'em, because this is one of the harder ones to go with. But I'm gonna go with the dog here. I'm gonna go with Sadykhov. I think he can just get this fight to the ground. I think he's the slightly better grappler here. I think he's gonna be more active in the transitions. This is a very even fight. Their styles are a little different, and I think stylistically that's where Sadykhov is gonna hold the advantage. I don't think he's, I think he's slightly better grappler, but I think just that style that he has is gonna be able to win it over on Ziam, and I'm high on Ziam. At first, I was full go for him, but I'm shifting to the Sadykhov side. It's gonna be the pick. I'm gonna go by sub. I think he's gonna be able to pull it off. I think this is gonna be an exciting fight. Very exciting, very eventful. Sadykhov by sub. Now let's get in to the women's flyweight division. We got Maycee Barber taking on Karine Silva. Pretty straightforward. We got Maycee Barber coming at that minus 155 favorite. Karine Silva at the minus 130 or plus 130 dog. Maycee Barber, 27 years old, 14-2 pro record. She's 9-2 in the UFC. She has one loss in her early career versus Alexa Grasso, which, so not a bad loss at all. She's a good grappler, mean ground and pound. She has KO power too. She has some good stand-up game, what I really like a lot. On the other hand, Karine Silva, 31 years old, 19-5 pro record, 5-1 in the UFC. Her losses to Vivian Rojo, and she ended up getting a loss to Tracy Cortez and then I think another win, so not too bad of a loss either. But Silva has no big wins yet. She does give good pressure, she has good grappling, she does have 3 subs in a row entering the UFC, and then since the competition stepped up, she's not getting those subs anymore, so I don't see her getting it on Maycee Barber. My pick's going to be Maycee Barber by decision. I think she's just the better striker. She's going to be able to get that volume out a lot more. As you can see, she has that 4.7 significant strikes landed per minute. I'm excited to see these grappling exchanges. I'm excited to see if Silva is, how good she is in them. I think if I was Silva, I would want the fight to go to the ground. I think that is her only way, because I don't think she's a better striker. I think Maycee Barber just has some hands on her. So as long as she can avoid the clinch, Maycee Barber, I think she can get all her shots off and all that volume. So it's going to be the pick, Maycee Barber by decision. All right, let's get into the next one. All right, we're in the men's lightweight division. We got Terrence McKinney, T-Rex, going against Chris Duncan. This is another good matchup. Terrence McKinney, shout out from Spokane, Washington, one of my cities. He wrestled right there with a couple of my buddies at NIC as well. Always going to be rooting for him, but we'll get into the breakdown and I can explain the pick. Terrence McKinney coming in at that plus 165 dog. Chris Duncan, minus 195 favorite. Terrence McKinney, 31 years old, 17-7 pro record. He's 17-4 in the UFC. Train over that Fusion XL. He's an exciting fighter. If you watch him, first round, he's either getting finished or majority of the time getting the finish. Clean strikes. He's a high-level wrestler, NIAA or whatever wrestler. KO power, puts people to sleep. Also has submission threats. His losses are to good competition too. So that 17-4 UFC record is, I think, a pretty solid one for being, 31 years old. He's now just getting into the prime, making the improvements he needs to. I really like that. But never been to a decision. I don't think it's happening tonight. Chris Duncan, on the other hand, 32 years old, 14-2 pro record. He's 5-1 in the UFC. He was 3-0 in Bellator, and anytime someone has a good Bellator PFL run, I always take that in consideration, because those are very good leagues, especially if they can go undefeated in them. They're probably going to be a problem in the UFC. He's a pressure fighter. Started off career getting TKOs. Then he started kind of getting more into the subs. I think it's the strength that gets him there. He's very strong. He's willing to exchange, though. He's willing to stand up and get the fight on the feet. and try to land some big hits. He has good boxing, but one thing I do like is that when he's doing his boxing combinations, he's finishing with high kicks. And a lot of people can get thrown off by that and get KO'd. And so this fight can go a lot of different directions. I'm excited to see these props because I feel like nothing should be too high on the plus category as far as a finish on either end. I think decision should be the only thing high. Everything else should be pretty low. So the pick's going to be Chris Duncan. I'm going to go with sub. As much as I'm going to be rooting for T-Rex over here, I think Chris Duncan is just stronger. He's going to employ the wrestling, the grappling heavy. He's going to get off combos. His defense is good enough. I think he just has the more muscle on him. And if they get through this first round, I think he's very live for a sub here. Very live. So Chris Duncan by sub. All right, let's get on to the next one. We got Grant Dawson taking on Manuel Torres in the lightweight division. Grant Dawson coming in at a -210 favorite. Manuel Torres at the +175. I like that a lot. I think they're sleeping on Manuel Torres here. Grant KGD Dawson, 31 years old, 23-2 pro record. He's 11-1-1 in the UFC, training over there at American Top Team. He has some pretty crafty spinning kicks. Overall, the striking looks good, but he does look to work the grappling. He has sub and KO wins. But he's just a high level grappler from what I see so far. He has good takedowns, able to get the fight. He's averaging almost 4 takedowns a fight. He's getting one every round here. Now, Manuel Torres, on the other hand, 30 years old, 16-3 pro record, 4-1 in the UFC. He is a high level BJJ guy. Good blitzes, boxing blitzes. Likes to just come in kind of wild. That did cost him in a fight versus Ignacio Bahamondes, where he did get knocked out, but he did sub Chris Duncan. And what I see here is, him slightly maybe having some better hands than Dawson. Dawson looking to get the fight to the ground, and Torres jumping the ghillie and pulling that off. That's going to be the pick. Manuel Torres by sub, and I'm going to say guillotine. That's going to be the specific one here. And I think, that's going to be Dawson's mistake, is trying to get this to the ground, and I think he'll pay the price and catch a sub. We're going on the dog. This will be the dog call. This will be one of the dog calls that I'm giving. This and Vettori are my more confident ones that I have. Manuel Torres by submission. Let's move on. All right, we're getting into the light heavyweight division with Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Now this will be a tense matchup here between these light heavyweights. We got Blachowicz coming in at that -120 favorite, and we got Guskov at the even odds. This will be a good one. This will be a really good one. Bogdan Guskov, 33 years old, 18-3 pro record. He's 4-1 in the UFC, training over that Gore MMA. Powerful boxing from the guy. Really slick boxing as well. Pretty technical, more technical than I thought. From the beginning of his career, the more tape study I did, I'm learning, he is a pretty technical boxer, and I do like that. He has great straight punches from what I'm seeing. He has pretty good grappling as well, but in his boxing, he's very accurate. When he gets in a groove, I see him tend to drop his hands and look to counter. And, that is just a sign of confidence. I think at his age, with the confidence, the run he's pulling, go ahead and do that. Blachowicz, I don't know if that's the guy to do it to, but we'll see. I know Guskov, I know he has one loss to Volkan Oezdemir, who just cashed in on him this last week. He's looking real good, so not a bad loss at all. For the UFC, he was fighting in multiple leagues, a lot of different other ones that I don't have time to go down the list and talk about. He's going against Jan Blachowicz, 42 years old, definitely the oldest guy on the roster. He might be looking at being one of the oldest guys in the UFC right now. He is 29-11-1. That's the pro record. He is 12-8 in the UFC. He was the former champ at one time. He's a KSW legend. He's just an all-around fighter. Lost a very good competition. I remember when he had the bell, Israel Adesanya tried to hop up, and he pretty much just wet blanketed him, secured that. I ended up losing, I think, to Glover Teixeira. That's how he ended up losing the belt. Since then, a couple losses, but he's still Jan Blachowicz. He still looks good, even at, 40, 41. Clean boxing. Doesn't do too well when people catch his back. Do I see Guskov doing that? Not really. The only bad loss that he took was to Thiago Santos, where he got knocked out. And he kind of just charged forward. He does that, but I feel like he just went a little too reckless, and he just paid the price. He has high IQ, though, outside of that one instance I seen, but but I'm going to go with Blachowicz by decision here. This is a very unconfident pick. Guskov is very live to get a finish, possibly, but I just think the durability is going to play a big role. And honestly, the number one factor in this fight I see happening, Blachowicz has another orthodox fighter. He is going to look to throw those heavy, nasty leg kicks that he likes to do, kind of equalize the opponent. I think that's how he made the fight a draw with Ankalaev. That's how he made that competitive, was with those leg kicks. Guskov is not there on that level of Ankalaev yet, in my mind. I could be wrong, but I think those leg kicks are gonna compromise him, bring that striking, bring that league foot. You know, he's gonna break him down, and that's how I see him getting the win. Young Blachowicz by decision. All right, let's move on. Now we're pushing into the bantamweight division. We got Henry Cejudo taking on Peyton Talbott. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Henry Cejudo, that plus 240 dog. Talbott at the minus 300 favorite. And man, another one where I kind of see some value in the dog here. Henry Cejudo, though, he's pushing up there in age, 38 years old. 16-5 pro record. He's 10-5 in the UFC. All those losses are to very high level. Aljamain Sterling up at featherweight, moved up, and then he lost to Marab, current champ, and Sung Yundong, who is he's a young up and coming fighter who's on a roll right now. Henry Cejudo has some very fast, clean technical boxing. He does have power in the hands, and he does have some pretty good high kicks that he can throw. And let's all not forget here, Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist, double champ in the UFC. I'm gonna say it, as much as I do respect it, I think he is probably the weakest double champ. He just beat, I think, DJ once, moved up, got TJ Dillashaw, someone else, and then lost. He still did it. Can't take that away. But 10-5 in the UFC double champ. It's crazy. On the other hand, we got Peyton Talbott, 27 years old, a lot younger. 10-1 pro record. He is 4-1 in the UFC. His one loss to was Raoni Barcelos, where he just looked to get the fight on the ground, control him, look for sub looks. Talbot kind of picked it up throughout the fight, looked a lot better as it got on, but ended up taking the loss. He's trained over there at Reno Academy of Combat. Before the UFC, he was fighting at A1 Combat. That's Uriah Faber's promotion. He's just an elite striker. He looks to put out volume, good hands on him, good kicks. I would say he has decent grappling, but he was getting taken down very easy in that Barcelos fight. The thing is Cejudo, is an Olympic gold medalist, but how often, is he really looking to employ wrestling super heavy outside of being in trouble? So that's the kind of gray area there, but Peyton Talbot has KO power. I want to say Peyton Talbot by KO, but Henry Cejudo's pretty durable. But Talbot's the younger, fresher fighter, better striker, and all he needs to worry about is not getting taken down by Cejudo if he gets into that mode. Peyton Talbot by decision. That's going to be the pick here. Let's move on. All right, we got Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuro Taira in the flyweight division. Brandon Moreno coming at that plus 105 dog. We love it. 31 years old, 23-8 and 2 pro record. I think he's like one of the only guys with 2 draws. There, you don't see that too often. He's 11-5-2 in the UFC, training over there at Fariz MMA. Let's just say Brandon Moreno, he's the GOAT Mexican-born fighter. Tell me another Mexican-born fighter. Mexican-born. Don't bring up some Mexican that was born here in America. Mexican-born fighter that's better than Brandon Moreno. Bring it up. I'll be waiting. Drop it in the comments if you disagree, but we can call him the GOAT Mexican-born fighter here. He fought Davison Figueroa 4 times. He is 2-1-1 with the guy. So he walked away with the victory on that one. He took the belt from him, got the belt took back, some stuff like that. I know I want to say he actually got the belt took by Pantoja too eventually. And look at what he's doing now. He's on a road. He's actually towards the end of the card as well. But Brandon Moreno has never been finished in his whole career. He has a lengthy, shiny, not too super shiny record, but he has a lengthy career. So that speaks a lot. He has a wild style. He's just gritty. He's just real gritty, Mexican spirit, doesn't back down, continuously just brings that pressure. And I think that's why a lot of people like him. On the other hand, we got Tatsuro Taira coming at that minus 125 favorite. He's 25 years old, 17-1 pro record, 7-1 in the UFC. Only losses to Brandon Royval, who is an excellent fighter in this division. Before he was fighting over there at the Shuto, where he's a legend over there. He's a high-level grappler. Very defensive, very technical. He has a good IQ for being only 25 years old, especially, fighting these guys like Brandon Royval, he didn't get dominated by any means. He had moments in the fight. He made it competitive, regardless of the, I want to say it was a unanimous decision. Could have been split, but I think it was a unanimous decision. But grappling-wise, he looked really good. I'll say strikes, he got outstruck pretty obviously, but grappling-wise, he made it very competitive. Once he's on someone's back, that's when he looks dangerous. That's when he shows that control. He gets off strikes, looks for subs, and he's always looking for the finish. That's one thing I do like about him. The pick here will be Brandon Moreno by decision. Brandon Moreno is a better grappler than Royval, and they were competitive. I think Moreno might be able to be a better grappler in this situation, or at least get more takedowns. A little bit more control time. I don't see him getting sub look, maybe getting on top, getting that solid control time. I think the grit, the experience is going to play a big role, and I think that different style might throw Taira off for how technical he is. That's gonna be the pick. Brandon Moreno also had a very close grappling match with Pantoja, and look what he's doing again. So that I think they're sleeping on the dog here. I'll take Brandon Moreno at a plus 105. I'll take him. I'll steal that. Yeah, bread will be getting thrown on that, and that's gonna be the pick. I feel confident in it. I feel confident. And Brandon Moreno, take us to the promised land. All right, let's move on. Now we're getting in to the flyweight championship fight. Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. Wow, this is a great fight. Alexandre Pantoja's on a run. Joshua Van's on a run. This is going to be good. This is regardless of the result, this is going to show some high level fighting. Joshua Van, 24 years old, very young prospect. 15-2 pro record. He's 8-1 in the UFC. Training over there at 4 Ounce Fight Club out of Houston, Texas. He's just an elite striker. In my eyes, Joshua Van has the best hands in the flyweight division. I'll say in all of the little guy divisions. All the way up to, say all the way below lightweight, he is the best boxer. He has hands. That guy has hands. He is very exciting to watch. Very technical boxer. He doesn't really just throw wild strikes. He is technical and still has power. He's shown so far that he has good takedown defense. Has he faced a guy like Pantoja? No, but he's shown to have some pretty good takedown defense. He does have some sub wins before he got in the UFC. He was fighting in Fury. But the one thing I want to say is the fight that he had with Brandon Royval, that there's a chance that could be fight of the year. He showed that he's a dog. He's ready to go to war. Now he's battle tested. He has essentially everything he needs going into this fight. As far as the buildup, he has everything he needs. He's went through everything he has except for Pantoja, and there's not a guy that can replicate him. So it's really hard to say if he's ready to handle these grapplings. Is he going to be able to stuff these takedowns? Is he going to be able to stuff, a scramble and Pantoja catching his back? Is he going to be able to do that? And that's the question. And if he does, it is an easy win on the feet for Joshua Van. That is my opinion. Pantoja, 35 years old, good age, 30-5 pro record, very shiny right there. That's something to brag about. 14-3 in the UFC. He has 4 title defenses right now versus Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, Steve Erceg, and Kai Asakura. Or he took the belt from Brandon Moreno, and his 4th defense is versus Kai Kara France, where he submitted him with ease. He's an elite grappler, probably at the highest level in this division right now. He wins mostly by control time. He's getting like over 10 minutes of control every fight. If he realizes he can't strike, he's going to the ground. He's going to be successful. That's just how it goes for him. You can call him a flyweight legend already, and he could strike pretty well if he needs to. I noticed he has some pretty good strikes, but his IQ is on another level. I'm gonna be rooting for Joshua Van. I'll be jumping around if he pulls this off and wins. He's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC right now, but I have to be realistic. Gotta be realistic here. I just think Pantoja's grappling is on another level. I think even if he's not able to take him down, I think he's going to be able to get him to the fence, transition to the back, and then get a takedown. I think Pantoja's going to really have to dig deep in his bag here to pull this off, but it's simply the grappling and control time, whether it's against the fence, whether it's on top. I don't see him subbing him. I just see more fence time. You know, he's going to be kicking his feet, little things like that. Pantoja, he has the recipe to be able to win. And I think the XP and the experience, you know, that 30-5 pro record, it's all going to speak when they fight. But again, I will be rooting for Joshua Van. I will be rooting for him. I want him to win. As far as the pick though, Alexander Pantoja, very excited for this fight. This is a long time coming for Joshua Van here. Well-deserved, you know, young guy. Would love to see him make some history. All right, let's move on to the final fight of the evening. Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. It just sucks because this is kind of a situation like the last fight. I love Petr Yan. I'll be rooting for him. Dvalishvili, though, I really respect him, and I do like him. I'll just say I do like Jan's style a lot more. I like the trips, but all right, we'll get into this. Merab Dvalishvili coming in at a hefty favorite, -500. He's 34 years old, 21-4 pro record. He's 14-2 inside the UFC, and he's defended the belt 3 times versus Umar Nurmagomedov, Sean O'Malley, and Corey Sandhagen. He took the belt from Sean O'Malley, so this will be his 5th title fight. He's looking to get the 4th defense in here. He's beat Jan before. This is kind of just a moment where, hey, you know, who else can I beat? I've ran through all the good people. Who wants some more? They send Petr Yan back to trying to handle the task. Merab, though, is, you know, he's the machine, called the machine for a reason. His cardio is on another level. We've seen it, you know, fighters look good against him in the first couple rounds, but once you get into those championship rounds, you're just not going to look the same for, you know, he's going to look the same. He's going to just be happy, moving around, constant movement. He's well-rounded everywhere. Obviously the wrestling is where he looks to get a lot of the fights. That's really where, once he realizes he's not striking with someone, he's going to get to the ground. Has Petr Yan improved though? You know, he's 32 years old, 19-5 pro record, 11-4 UFC record. He does have one of those losses coming by a DQ to Aljamain Sterling. I think he kneed him in the head. Aljamain Sterling, you know, I don't want to say he had a Grammy. You got to do what you got to do to not take that L on the record, if you know what I mean. I'm going to say it, another brave opinion here. Petr Yan, in my eyes, in my opinion, he's the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC, in the sport of MMA. Oh yeah, I'm saying it. Petr Yan. You know, tell me a weak point of him. You know, I know you can kind of say the same about Merab, but Petr Yan is just, you know, he is solid. I love his trips, love his boxing, love his kicks, love his scrambles. He can just keep the fight. He's willing to take the fight anywhere. I really like that about him. He is one of my other favorite fighters. Petr Yan gets jobs done in the clinch. You know, his judo. He's just an exciting fighter for me, you know, especially, you know, he might not be the knockout exciting fighter, but being, you know, having the appreciation of the sport, he's high level, very, very, very high level. And watching him is just, it's a true treat. Unfortunately, you know, I'm gonna have to go Merab by decision. Cardio gonna play a big role. He's gonna look better once, you know, Petr Yan's tired. That overwhelming pressure, no one can handle it right now. I think it's about time Dvalishvili, I think it's about time he moves up in weight or moves down. Pantoja and him, why not? If they both win, why not? Why don't they fight? I think Merab has a better chance moving up than Pantoja has moving up though. So just kind of saying that, but that's it for the card, guys. Hope you liked it. Again, go like, subscribe, meet me in the comments if you like the beat. Hit me up for the beat. Go follow the socials. Hop on the juice reels. Hopefully I'll be getting another video out here before the fight starts. Thank you guys for tuning in, and see you next time.